Hello everyone. My name is Daria and I am the event manager of the AnyLogic company. And today I'm very happy to welcome you on the AnyLogic User Group Session. We're going to introduce you the latest updates and development plans for the AnyLogic family of products, AnyLogic 8, AnyLogic 9 and AnyLogic Cloud. We're also going to talk about the various methods of AI application with the AnyLogic simulation modeling. After each part, we will have a live discussion where you will be able to ask your questions to the AnyLogic team. If you would like to talk, please use the raise hand function on your menu panel and we will turn on your microphone. You can also ask your questions to the questions chat box and we will cover them if there is a time remaining. After the session, all the attendees will receive the video recording and Q&A summary. And now I'm glad to introduce you to my colleague Anastasiya Zhilyaeva, product owner of AnyLogic libraries. She will start our session with an overview and roadmap for the AnyLogic 8.
Hello everybody. Welcome to AnyLogic User Group Session and thank you for coming to our event today. My name is Anastasiya Zhilyaeva and I'm AnyLogic Libraries product owner. Today I'm going to tell you about the recent features that we released after AnyLogic conference and about our nearest plans. And if you have any questions, please, in the end of my presentation, raise your hands and I will answer on your questions lively. Or you also can type your questions in the chat and I will choose the best questions to answer on in the end. Okay, let's go. First of all, during our AnyLogic conference, we announced that we are going to replace our old process modeling palette racks with the new features that would support creation of large warehouse models. So we already released the storage markup element and several new material handling blocks. And with the storage markup element, just with one element, you can create very large warehouses. So you put this element on your canvas, set up the dimensions for only one rack or several racks, and after that, by dragging this element, you are creating a large number of racks that stay standalone to each other. Also, just in 2 clicks, by using Create a Storage Network, you can easily create a network, all these paths that are going inside the aisles of the racks, and you can easily connect these paths to the network that you already have in your model. Also in the same release, we had the 2 types of new racks. So selective type, that is very basic type of rack, and drive-in racks that allows you to make your transporters or resources to go inside base to store or to retrieve the items. Also, one of the biggest feature of the new storage system is the full integration with our transporters. So now new material handling blocks, store and retrieve, allow you to choose transporters as you could choose resources in the rack pick and rack store blocks before. So now you don't have to make any reservation of the cells by code. You don't need to have a long sequence of process modeling and material handling blocks. You can make your reservation, make your storage inside the racks and retrieval just by 3 blocks, as you can see on the slide. Also, I want to highlight that there is a possibility to make a non-regular layout of the storage system. For example, if you have the columns that interfere inside your rack, you can choose several cells inside the rack so that will be deactivated. So our store block or our store function won't store the agents or items inside these cells of the rack. So they are not even empty. Actually, for AnyLogic, it is like they don't exist at all. And of course, they are not counted in your statistics. Also, now you can choose any random cell for storing as well as you have the previously previous slotting policies, like the ones when you could choose the cell directly, or you could put the items in the storage store according to the store type. Of course, we have a lot of things that we want to add to our storage in the future. The one is is coming soon, really soon. We want to make it as a little Christmas present for you. This is the back-to-back rack placement. So as before, you just drop in the storage markup element on your canvas and choose the back-to-back rack placement. And after that, you can receive the layout with the pairs of racks that are standing next to each other. So a very basic and very common layout that you can see in any warehouse. Of course, we do not work only on warehouse supporting things in AnyLogic team right now. And so we have a reversible conveyors feature that will come very soon, I think in the probably first half or first and several months of the next year. And this is the conveyor that can change direction and can work in the both directions. So to make the conveyor reversible, you need to choose the appropriate property of the conveyor, and at any time during the model run, you can change the direction of the conveyor by using API functions. Also, I want to say that the items that already travel by this conveyor won't just disappear, of course, or won't drop any exception if you change the direction. They will simply exit the conveyor block, so you can reroute them or you can take them from conveyor if you want. So we hope that this feature will be useful to create inline buffers or in or out feeding conveyors for standalone stations that stand a bit near to the main conveyor lines. Next. Also, we have several features that we plan. Of course, the first ones are about the enhancement of our storage systems, and the most important of them, the most noticeable of them, are new rack types. The first one is gravity type of rack with first in, first out policy, and pushback type of rack. Also, we want to limit the number of resources and transporters inside aisle because we understand that in many processes we have only one or probably only two transporters that can work at the same time in one aisle. And we know that there are usually a lot of efforts that you need to make to fill the racks in the start of the model starts, and we want to add a feature that will help you with this, so you can fill the racks somehow before the model starts executing. So when the model will start working, the storage will be already partly filled. So you can start your filling or outbound process not from the very beginning. Okay. We also want to add so-called hybrid rack placement where you have two standalone racks that are placed on the edge of your warehouse and the group of back-to-back racks in the middle, because we understand that this is very common layout. So we hope to add this in the future. Okay. Also, we would like to add the maintenance support for our material handling equipments. So our users already know that now we have a downtime block that we can attach to our resources, so that the resources understand when they have like a failure or they have a maintenance or so on. And we want to make it possible to add this block to our transporters, cranes, stations, or even conveyor elements, so that you could easily assign the time of the failures, the time of maintenance, the time of repairment, and also that you could gather the statistics like mean time to repairment or mean time between repairments. Also, in the scope of this task, we also want to add the trigger by travel distance to our downtime block. Okay, and probably according to my speech, it may seem that lately we are improving only material handling library. Actually, it's of course we are focusing on this library, but this is not only the one thing that we want to improve in our AnyLogic. So we decided that we will also take the pedestrian library to improve in the future, and we know that probably all the users who ever made their pedestrian models had spent a lot of efforts to make just a simple lift that travels by different levels. So we decided that we will make this block inside the AnyLogic block or markup element. It's not decided yet, probably both of them. And this markup element will of course connect multiple levels, and we are going to add some basic policies of dropping and picking passengers on different floors. And you can also define your own custom picking and dropping rules, because we know that sometimes they're very complex, and there's even like a science how to drop or how to pick the number of people and how to serve all the requests that are going from different floors. So we hope to make these things in the near future. Okay, finally, I want to tell a bit about the overall development process that we have in AnyLogic 8 developer teams right now. As you probably remember, before we had a very long time of releases. And so usually it took about several months or even half of the year between the releases. And last year we changed this paradigm, and now we have frequent releases, so we try to release to have a release every month or every 1 month or and a half. So this year we managed to release almost 7 releases. I think this is the right number. And during this approach helps us to stay flexible and to deliver the minor features and bug fixes as soon as possible to our clients. We want to continue with this approach, in the next years, and so we will continue with these small steps, and we are going to release our big features also in steps. For example, like we released the MHL-RX. Now we want to release reversible conveyors. So for example, in the beginning you get almost all functionality of reversible conveyors but without stations. But in the next release you can get the functionality of stations on reversible conveyors and so on. Of course, we have a lot of plans, not only the ones that I mentioned on my previous slide. We have really a lot of requests, like for robot manipulators, stack trains, and assembly stations, and so we will try to stay as flexible as possible to choose the features that are hot topic and that are most important for you. So please don't be shy and send me or to our support your requests and your feedback about the features that we have in AnyLogic 8. And last but not the least, everybody knows that the work is going on AnyLogic 9, and this September the AnyLogic 9 team released a technology preview version. And of course we make a lot of efforts to support the AnyLogic 9 in future, because AnyLogic 8 will become like a part of AnyLogic 9 in the long distant future. Well, we know about this. Okay, that's all from my part. So please, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will try to answer your questions. Okay, I have one question, several questions in the chat. The one question is the estimated merge date of AnyLogic 8 and AnyLogic 9. I think that my colleague Yulia will be probably will better answer to this question in the future, probably in her parts of presentation. So sorry, I will pass it to Yulia. And another question is, can you explain what the tug train is? The tug train is like the group of transporters that are going next to each other. Usually there is one transporter that like tugs all other more small transporters that carry different items on them. So this is a thing that is widely used in automotive. So it's like material handling thing. Okay, one more question. Will this presentation PowerPoint be available after this meeting? Of course, yes. Okay, I have two more questions. Crossing rules for AGVs. Currently only first in, first out is available. Do you plan to deliver more? Yes, we are going to deliver them, but right now we have this feature in our backlog, but right now we want to focus on the ones that I mentioned in my presentation. Probably after that we will go to this feature as well. So we remember about this problem. Thank you. Okay, one more question. I saw a lot of updates to libraries within AnyLogic, but are there any updates to the software itself in the roadmap, like dark theme, JIT support, and so on? Also, these questions will be covered in AnyLogic 9 part, I think, because we have some improvements in AnyLogic Core, but about the UI of AnyLogic or the teamwork inside AnyLogic, these questions are going to AnyLogic 9. One more question. The Gravity mentioned as a stacking system. Is it active? Do you have an example? Right now it's not active, but we are working on it right now, so we hope that we will release it in the first half of the next year, the gravity system. One more thing. Will today anyone talk about using GIS map to model traffic? Unfortunately, no. We don't have these things covered today. But thank you for reminding us about this feature. Thank you. Okay, one more question. I think two questions that will go to probably our support team. Do you have a GIS specialist? What kind of problem do you have? I think that our support can help you with a GIS map if you have any problems, questions with this. And one more question is any advice on how to use the built-in logging to database to analyze the model results? I also think that it's better to contact the support team with this question. Okay, thank you for your questions. I think there was a lot of questions about AnyLogic 9 already, so I'm going to pass my speech to the Yulia Tropina, who is product owner of AnyLogic 9. And she will tell you more about the AnyLogic 9 recent plans and the features.
Let me share my screen. Okay, so guys, can you see my screen? Is everything fine? Okay, cool. So Anastasiya has already introduced me. Thank you. Yes, I'm Yulia Tropina, AnyLogic 9 product owner. And so basically the topics are just the same as Anastasiya covered for AnyLogic 8. So the same topics are for AnyLogic 9, our recent updates and newest plans. Let's start with our updates since AnyLogic conference, which was in September this year. One of the major things that appears in AnyLogic 9 is charts. So we currently support 3 basic charts: bar chart, pie chart, and time plot. We facilitate work with properties. Now they have hide and disable conditions, which our users are used to in AnyLogic 8. We also support for selection multiple elements on canvas. For example, when you specify home locations of a resource pool, which is obviously used by most part of our AnyLogic 8 users. We have fixed 3D elements, projections, and of course, besides this, there was a lot of internal work related to infrastructure and testing, and a lot of ongoing work, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. I'm going to build a simple model. Let me switch to AnyLogic Cloud. So probably not all of you have seen AnyLogic 9 already. Let me do this, and let me remind that AnyLogic 9 is available for free for all AnyLogic public cloud subscribers until the next September. So please try it, send us your feedback. It is highly appreciated. So I'm creating a new model. We'll build a simple model of call center. AnyLogic 9 is open. So we will use the process modeling library source, which produces calls with the default rate. Start drawing a connector and use our next block menu to select the next block, which will be select output, which will define whether a call should be processed by an operator or should be processed by automatic attendant. So the probability will be 0.8. Then let's use the service block. So we'll require it will require a resource pool, which will stand for operators. And we'll have a capacity equal to 100. Now let's specify the service block. So we'll use units of the same pool, which is operators. Let's turn queue capacity to maximum and change the delay time to triangularly distributed value, maximum of 5 minutes. Okay. Next thing will allow exit on timeout. So if a person waits too long, he will just leave the system. The default timeout will leave equal to 100 seconds and use this port. So just leave the system. Okay, if a call is processed, it goes just straight forward to another sync. Now let's build an alternative branch. So another option is to be processed by automatic attendant. The time here will be a bit less, up to 3 minutes. And it will also has maximum capacity. Okay, so one more branch. So sometimes people still need some help even after automatic attendance. So just single click to connect the blocks. And if a customer is happy, he'll just leave the system again. Okay, that's it. We are done. So let's specify the probability. Let's check some properties. Source, okay, select output, service, maximum, we are good. Okay, and now let's add a chart here. So we'll add a pie chart with just 2 data items. One stands for answered calls. Let's make it green. Okay. The value is just a counter of sync 1. And another standing for abandoned calls. Let it be some sort of blue. And the value is the following. Okay, that's it. Let's run the model. Run it fast. Okay, and here we are. Everything works fine, and we can see that 100 operators can provide the service level of almost 90%. Okay, that's it with a very short demo, and let's get back to the presentation. We have regular updates of AnyLogic 9. AnyLogic 9, we publish new releases every 2 weeks, once per 2 weeks. And here are points that will be released within next 2 weeks. So actually, some of them will be released as soon as tomorrow, and others in 2 weeks correspondingly. So first major thing here is automatic creation of the dashboard. We have so-called run configuration in AnyLogic 8 to specify which parameters, charts, and output values should be passed into AnyLogic Cloud. And we decided to skip this stage in AnyLogic 9 and just pass all the parameters and all the charts to AnyLogic Cloud so that users can change dashboard in AnyLogic Cloud directly. So next thing is usage of alternative resource sets for process modeling library blocks. We'll add one more chart, which is histogram. We will add an ability to manage the markup from the properties, again just as AnyLogic 8 does. And here I mean changing the number of services and queues for pedestrian markup, which is called pet service. Then we support the drawing of simple shapes. Currently you can drag and drop and then change their size, and you'll be able to draw them just from the beginning. And the last but not the least is some improvements on code completion functionality. And when we talk about code completion or IDE functionality in web in general, it's really pretty hot topic and pretty new, not only for AnyLogic 9 but for the world in general. So it always requires a lot of research and development, and we make a lot of efforts. Okay, that's it with the very close plans, and let's turn to the to our priorities for the next first half of the next year. First of all, our main focus is to cover the functionality of AnyLogic 8 as fast as possible while redesigning it to a certain level. So not everything, but just things that we have requests for. Here are listed topics we are going to cover. So first is project view. What we are going to do here is more transparent synchronization between the canvas and the project view. More convenient to work with, for example, locked elements, so you'll be able to easily search for them. And some other common properties, just like logged or ignored or hidden, and so on. We are going to add groups not only for presentation elements but for elements of different types, and even agents themselves. To be able to make models more structured. Next topic is redesigned chart properties, and here I mean that they will be reorganized. Some properties that are rarely used will be hidden, and we will also facilitate work with colors, add some just some themes for charts to be to easily select and not to tune each and every color. So we are going to add two more libraries, which are Fluid and Rail. Further improvements of graphical editor first means modifying of the drawing of curved lines or polylines with arc segments, so they will become more intuitive. Next block menu evolution means that we are going to add search, so search for any block. So you'll be able not to add just one of the 5 most popular blocks, but just any block you need. The last topic is built-in database, here some internal research and development is applied in strong collaboration with AnyLogic Cloud team, and Gregory Monakhov will also tell you about this, so we understand the importance of this topic. Okay, and the thing I wanted to tell myself, and we already got such a questions from our audience. The approximate date of AnyLogic 8 and AnyLogic 9 conversions here. So I want to say again that our first and main goal is to cover functionality of AnyLogic 8, but there definitely be a period when AnyLogic 8 and AnyLogic 9 exist in parallel, probably it will last at least the next year. Okay, and actually that's it with my presentation, and I have some questions in the chat. But if you want to ask the question with just your voice, please raise your hand and let me turn on your microphone or even your video. It will be really cool if you turn your video on, so to make this session even more live. Let me see if I have some hands. Okay, I see one. Okay, cool. So I'm sorry if I spelled wrong. Deepak Patel, please ask your question, and first say if you want to turn on your video. Do you want?
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. So Yulia, my name is Deepak Patel, and I'm in the building automation industry. Do you have any application for the smart building to control the HVAC equipment?
Thank you for question. Yes, so supporting BIM is in our roadmap, but not in the nearest future. So as I said, our first goal is to cover AnyLogic 8 so that our current users can continue building the commercial models they can build in AnyLogic 8 now. Once it covers, we will turn to developing our features that are really new. But thank you for question, and if you don't mind, we'll connect with you later to clarify what exactly are your needs with this topic.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's cool.
Thank you.
Okay, then let me read the questions from the chat. So there was also a question about Git or any version control system. And my answer here actually is similar. So now we concentrate on AnyLogic 8 functionality, and after that Git will definitely become one of our main topics because we understand the importance of the teamwork. Okay, is AnyLogic vulnerable to the Apache Log4j-v2 exploit? Of course, so we know about it, and we have already released the updates with the workaround for this vulnerability. So yes, we are safe. AnyLogic 9 is available to public to try. AnyLogic 9 is currently available for AnyLogic public cloud subscribers. So if you buy subscription, you can use AnyLogic 9. Does AnyLogic 9 support system dynamics and agent-based? It doesn't support currently, but it is, of course, in the list. We understand the importance again. Okay. Will AnyLogic 9 be available offline? And if so, will all the features be available other than cloud computing? AnyLogic 9 will first be released as SaaS and as a private, like private cloud with the private cloud version. And after that, in some time, an offline, true offline version will also be available. In such case, just the computing power of your machine will be used. So no cloud computing. I mean, but if you want, of course, you will be able to use a private version and cloud system that is used in your organization. What will be the possibilities of using using files developed in Unity and Blender to create 3D shapes and worlds for AnyLogic? So we don't have currently such plans, but when we cover AnyLogic 8 functionality, we will evolve the usage of 3D shapes as well. Is it any plan for AnyLogic 9 to become touch-friendly? Honestly, it's not our focus because we are pretty much graphical tool, and it really requires mouse mostly. When will Python be supported within AnyLogic natively? So currently, the research is in process. I cannot answer this question. I'm sorry, it's outside the AnyLogic 9 topic still. Will AnyLogic 8 models be transferable to AnyLogic 9 at some stage? Yes, of course. So we are going to support back and forth compatibility. This means that during the parallel existence of AnyLogic 8 and 9, you can start modeling in AnyLogic 9 and then switch to AnyLogic 8 and vice versa. Okay, is splitting of model file for the purpose of easier collaboration in your priority list? Yes, we think about it. Yes, this idea is definitely in the list. Have you planned to improve or add new 3D objects? Please tell us more about your requirements here. So what objects do you need? And we can add them. I know that this is still a ways out, but when AnyLogic 8 and 9 merge development paths, will there be some support for easily exporting older AnyLogic 8 models to AnyLogic 9? So I think I have already answered. So yes, so there will be available to switch from AnyLogic 8 to AnyLogic 9. Okay, 3D objects like other types of workers, machinery, etc. Yes, we can include it now in the plan, and probably Anastasiya knows a bit more about this. Is it any plan for project management tool support? Wow, project management, you mean like building a model, considering a model as a project, stages and so on. We'll start with teamwork support, and as evolution of this idea, probably at some point we'll get to project management tool support. Then let's turn to AnyLogic Cloud. And I'm passing my microphone to Gregory Monakhov. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right. I hope everyone hears me. My name is Gregory. I'm AnyLogic Cloud product owner, and I'm glad to see a lot of cloud users in the list of attendees. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions in voice chat. It's really cool, and it's much more enjoyable to listen questions rather than read them. So let me share my screen. All right. So let's start from the presentation of our new features and plans in the next year. So all of the features has been highlighted at AnyLogic conference, but we use slides to present them, and today we'll have a live demo of these features. So we'll start from already released feature, file as experiment result. It's a rather simple feature. You can specify a file, and if the model writes some data into the file, at the end of the model run you can download the file and it will contain all the data you specified during the model run. We support any file type for any purpose. It can be a common text or CSV file, some custom Excel report, or JSON file for further visualization in Power BI or other similar software, and it can be even an image with some screenshots of your current model situation or something like that with, for instance, heat map in your pedestrian facility. It can be simply done in a AnyLogic run configuration. You just need to drag and drop the file in the output section, and I'm going to show you how it works with our public cloud. So here's my AnyLogic and very simple source queue delay sync model. Here I collect some statistics about the time and system. I have a histogram with aggregated data, and I have a text file with raw data. Let me show you this file. So the file has only headers right now: ID, enter time, exit time, and time and system. The file will store raw data used for aggregation. And I expect after the model run that I get this file populated with the data. So I just open run configuration, make sure that I have this file as output here in output section, and I export the model to AnyLogic Cloud. All right, let's provide a public access so you can check this model right after the export. I'll specify test models category and include all the sources. When the model is built, it gets into the clouds, and we will be able to run it and check if the file is populated with data or not. All right, I'm in the cloud, and here is my model dashboard. Here's simple experiments. Let me run it. And yeah, here we go. Here's my histogram. And let's see if I have some raw data. And yeah, here it is. So in this way, you can work with any file type. You can create such models in both public and private cloud. Besides these changes, there are some minor changes. I'm gonna log in and show you them in the cloud interface. So to use them, you should have an account in the cloud. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I am the model developer, and I have two cool features. So the first one is that you can now name your version. So previously only numbers were supported. Now I can name it like this. And it is applied in the interface. Besides, you can choose your public model version. So previously, if you published the model, only the latest, the latest by date model version becomes the public one. Here in the interface, you can now choose which version is the public version. And finally, you can duplicate the version for any reason. Mainly, it is required when you develop a model in AnyLogic 9. Okay, that's all about the file as experiment result feature, and we are going to The next features, they are very similar. Sorry, the first one, internationalization, and the second one is authorization. It's hard to pronounce them. So very simple internationalization. We support 2 languages in addition to English. It's Russian and Chinese, and I'm going to demonstrate it. And the second one is enterprise authorization. It's more complicated thing. So imagine you work in a large company, so you have some database or server which lists all the employees with their logins, passwords, which are used everywhere. And you would like to reuse them in the cloud. And now the cloud supports Active Directory and LDAP protocols. You can connect the cloud to the product, to the servers, and apply the user entries data from your servers in the cloud. So how it works? You have the data, you have usernames and passwords, you specify them in the cloud interface, and once if the data is correct, the cloud allows you to enter. If you enter the first time, it automatically reads your last name and your first name and other information about you from your servers. And if you enter second or more times, it will update the data. So for instance, if you change your last name, it will be updated in the cloud when you enter with updated credentials. So let's see how it works. Here, these features are not released yet, but here is my private cloud instance in our internal lab. And let me change language. So finally, we support my native language, Russian, and I'm so happy I can choose it here. And as you can see, the language is instantly changed. I don't need to refresh the page in the same way it works with Chinese, so you can easily switch between languages. As you can see, I don't have here sign up and guest buttons. So in this mode, the private cloud requires authorization for any action except for login. So unauthorized users can access only login page. So imagine I'm some new employee from Russia, and I know my credentials, and I cannot enter with them because system administrator confused something. So I contact him and I want him to fix the issues. The system administrator connects to his Active Directory server. Here it is at remote PC. I connect to this PC with remote desktop. And here's all my users. So a system administrator understands that he forgot to create a new entry for the new employee, so he presses the button here and start typing Gregory, initials, well, okay, and Monakhov. All right, and logo name is Gregory. Then provides me some password. I specified it previously on the cloud login page, but since the entry about me is missing, I cannot log in the cloud. And I'm happy. But this is not enough actually, because not all employees of the company can access the cloud. So that doesn't make any sense. Only users which belong to some specific group inside this Active Directory server can access the cloud. This group has cloud user's name, so I need to add the new entry to this group. So I double-click the entry, choose this member of tab, press add button, and type the group name, cloud users. There is a nice check names button which allows me to check if everything is okay. It seems to be okay. All right. So the system administrator work is over. And now I should be able to enter. And yeah, that's great. I can enter the Cloud, and as you can see, I cannot change the first name and the last name, so these edit boxes are disabled. It works in this way because the names are defined in the Active Directory server, and only system administrator of this Active Directory server can change my names. In the same way, I cannot reset the password or change it, and I cannot delete my profile. So only your system administrator can do it. All right, happy, and let's go to our roadmap. So previously we had some issues with expectations. I mean that only partially our roadmap was completed, and on the next half we decided to use some cutting-edge technologies to make sure that we meet your expectations and create a feasible roadmap. So here is our crystal ball. So we took a look in the crystal ball, and we believe that it will help us to meet your expectations. So what we expect to implement in the next year. So there are not a lot of new features in the cloud. So first of all, we want to support input and output files in the Cloud API. Those who use Cloud API, they know that you cannot work with files there. You can work with files only through web interface, and we want to fix it. Besides, we want to listen feedback about the enterprise authorization feature and implement some new features for this authorization based on user feedback. And we plan a lot of non-functional internal refactorings and work. There is one important notice for those who care about Java. We want to update Java to version 11. Currently, the cloud works with the latest version of Java 8. And we want to invest our time and money into large R&D about transformation of cloud data storage. So those who read the cloud architecture guide, they definitely noticed that the cloud consists of 3 databases. The first database is Cassandra. It is used to store experiment results. The second database is Postgres. It stores user data, so it's your login, your encrypted password, your access rights, your models, and so on. And the third database is optional. For instance, you develop a model in AnyLogic 8 and you use the built-in database there. In this case, when you export the model to the cloud, the third database appears there, but it is not a fully functional database. It's kind of a snapshot, like a file as database. You start running a model, the database is available, you can read it, you can change it, but when the experiment is over, you are rolled back to your snapshot because this is not persistible changes. And we have AnyLogic, we have AnyLogic 9, and definitely AnyLogic 9 should support built-in database in some way. And since AnyLogic 9 is software as a service, it cannot use the same approach as we use currently with HSQL built-in database in AnyLogic 8. Besides AnyLogic 9, we have plans on Scenario Manager. Basically, it's kind of all-round view with filtering, sorting, grouping, and other operations you can perform in order to play with your data, in order to aggregate your data, and so on. And of course, the new structure should support all previous roles like experiment results storage and user data storage. In addition, we are thinking about a new feature for private cloud clients, replaceability. Some companies have strict security requirements, and their teams have to use some specific database, for instance, Oracle database. So they reach out and ask the question, can we replace your Cassandra, Postgres, and everything else with Oracle? And we say, we're sorry, we cannot do this, but if our research will be successful, we can meet this requirement in the future. So for the next half of the year, we plan to perform such a large research and development. All right, so that's all about the new features and our plans, and I really hope to hear some voice with questions about AnyLogic Cloud. Thank you. Are these features available in private cloud? Yeah, surely they're available in private cloud. Is that possible to load to read data from the file in the cloud? Yeah, this is possible with web interface. Is language is Mandarin? Yes, the language is Mandarin, and if you own private cloud instance, you can create your own localizations. And if you believe this localization is good enough, you can sell it to us, and we will include it in the main product. This is a note, but I was told in the past the cloud would be able to host any logistics files that are still in the roadmap. Yeah, you're right. There were some demonstrations of this experimental feature, and for now we paused this works just because there are more important features, and we figure out that the logistics in the cloud requires too much effort, and for now we decided to invest our time into another activities such as functional improvements of the products and logistics 3.0 version. So I suppose these works of logistics cloud will be resumed, but definitely not in the next half of the year. All right. Which are the main differences between a student account and the top-level account regarding AnyLogic Cloud? We have a nice comparison at our website. So basically there is public and private cloud. In public cloud there are two options. You can be a free user or you can be a subscriber. Free users can upload their models, they can run their models, but they cannot run more than 5 minutes in animation. Runs with animations. And not more than 1 minute of runs without animation. Such runs are executed as fast as possible, so 1 minute is not so bad, but still it is a limitation. Subscribers don't have such limitations. Files as output are supported for everyone, so you don't have to pay for it. Is it also available in private cloud? Light. Yes, Yuri, all these features are available in private cloud Light. The only exception here is LDAP and Active Directory features. I demonstrated they are supported in private cloud Pro and Enterprise. And of course, in public cloud, we do not plan to implement such type of authorization just because it's public cloud. All right, can the number of agents be increased for the AnyLogic community version? I have a question for you. What is AnyLogic community version? I suppose it's personal learning edition. There is not a bad limitation like 50,000 agents. Please let me know how many agents you want to see in this version. All right, so then we can proceed, and I'm glad to pass the presenter permissions to my colleague from AnyLogic North America, Arash Mahdavi. Arash, hello. I worked with Arash for 6 or 7 years, and Arash is a great colleague who is responsible for AI program in the entire company, and also he is a technical lead in our North America office. And I'm sure there is a lot of exciting information from Arash. Okay, Arash, just a moment, I'll make you presenter. Please check if you can share your screen.
Yes, I guess that should be shared now. Okay, fantastic. So let's get rid of this. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Gregory. And it's going to be a tough job following all the great presentation and the great topics that we just heard about in AnyLogic 8, 9, and the cloud, but I will try my best to show you some new features and add-ons that we are adding to the AnyLogic ecosystem, specifically in the context of AI. And for this presentation, I've decided to focus on a specific application that we usually do not cover that much, and that's embedding trained ML models inside simulation models, specifically AnyLogic. So let's start this. Okay, if you see my screen, we are usually talking about three main applications that let us use AI solutions, specifically ML models, in collaboration with simulation models. And we identified three major categories that you probably have heard if you are following our work in the past 3 years. Today, as I said, I'm going to focus mostly on the test bed or embedding ML models inside simulation. We usually talk a lot about reinforcement learning, and we cover generating synthetic data as well. But I think there are a lot of really practical applications for the third case, the test bed, that both AI community and simulation community can benefit from. And this is a really easy way for you to collaborate with your data scientist colleague, and for them to also get introduced to the world of simulation modeling. And as more AI solutions are getting integrated into real world, the prominence of this type of applications becomes more evident for everybody. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you have some ideas about what you can do in that context. As part of this presentation, I'm going to introduce a new workflow to our repository of tools and techniques and technology stack that might be interesting to you. But the main ideas that I'm going to do and focus on today is why you want to embed ML models inside simulation models. Because first, we need to have a reasoning why this is even a useful thing to do, and then I focus on the implementation of these things. So let's start with the specific use cases that we identified over the years. Some of them might look obvious, but at the same time, many people who are working in both of these domains are not familiar with these applications. So hopefully there are some new ideas that you can kind of take away from this presentation. The first use case that is very useful for any simulation modeler is, it's been around this idea for the beginning of simulation modeling, that you can put other types of models inside simulation models, including optimization, let's say linear regression model, any other mathematical or algorithm that you want to embed into simulation models. But these ML, kind of with the ML progression, it became much easier to build models out of pure data, and they are really powerful in predicting the future. So organizations are now having access to a variety of really good predictive models that you can make use of as part of your simulation model. In case 1 and 2, I'm talking about this scenario. So just to make it more specific, the case 1 talks about when you are using ML models as an alternative for inputs that represent an abstracted behavior in a simulation model. In a more kind of simpler terms, just imagine anywhere in your AnyLogic model that you have a field that you can pass an expression, and that expression gets evaluated into a number. You can use that field to pass or kind of put a trained data-driven model there to get the predictions. This could include in your state charts or any flowchart based model. And usually they could be a really good substitute for just simple distributions that is conventionally used a lot in simulation domain. And one other aspect that makes it even more interesting, if you're mixing it with multi-method models that you can do with AnyLogic, and the object or the agents that are getting into a certain part of the model or the flowchart has lots of individual level attributes, that's a really good opportunity to pass that to these trained models and get back predictions that are individualized based on those specific objects. So just imagine like the range of possibilities and how much more you can advance or enhance your previous simulation models with that approach. And we have several examples of this even in our example model repository with what we did with pipeline that I will get to in a minute. The second use case is kind of similar, but with a little bit of a mind shift. Just imagine that something, your simulation model, you can definitely build it with first principles with, like, let's say, state chart or some algorithm or some logic that you put together with AnyLogic blocks or something else. But there are cases that it becomes really hard to figure out how to model a certain thing. Let's say you have these buckets of sands moving on a conveyor, and then you wanted to model the moisture content as it changes over time. How you want to model it? You can put together some rules that calculates it over time, but there might be some ML model that gets some inputs and give you a value that represents the moisture content over time. And you can embed those models inside your agents or at any part of your model to represent that behavior from a data-driven tool or a data-driven approach to modeling. And then you have a comprehensive model that also has these aspects that are modeled with first principles and some aspects that are data-driven. The third use case is actually gaining more prominence over time, and you will see that this type of scenarios are going to become more prevalent as more trained ML models are actually getting deployed in real world. What I mean by this, so as modelers, our job is to go and look into the real system and try to map it into the digital version of that reality that we call simulation model and all the rules and how it works. If the real system has these trained ML models or these AI, deployed AI solutions that are actually part of the real system, for you to build a representative simulation version of it, you need to incorporate those ML components. And this is what I'm showing here. So the real system has these things, so you need to somehow embed some variation of those, maybe the actual thing or some maybe a more abstracted version of it inside your simulation model to be able to represent the reality in a more representative way. The fourth use case is testing the impact of an AI solution on the system overall performance before deployment. This is mostly useful for people who are on the other side of the aisle, the ML practitioners and experts that build these models that have answers to a certain question, but based on this data-driven models. But usually it's a hard thing to see the impact of these solutions on the overall system just by validating that specific model. Simulation give us this test bed environment to embed these solutions inside a bigger system and see how that is going to improve the overall performance of the system. And if there is any systemic risk, let's say, that is going to happening because of some, systemic interconnectivity, you might be able to uncover that with these tests that you do with the overall system. So this is also another way to bring in your ML colleagues into your simulation practice and show them that there are benefits in them actually looking into the benefits of having these simulated environments. And the other thing is kind of a simpler version of case 4. Case 4 is very analytical, so you care about the actual values, the outcome, but sometimes it happens a lot, specifically in the ML context, that these data-driven models are super useful, but they have a hard time presenting those models to the clients or people who are the owners, stakeholders of those models. They know for sure they can show with some metrics and all these quantitative data and reports that, yeah, this is going to improve things, but there's no good way of showing the actual effect of these models. And as we all know, as simulation modelers, we know that simulation is a great presentation tool at the same time as all of its quantitative capabilities. And so that's a benefit that you can get. So for many reasons, having a good visualization, aside from the fact that you can actually see what is happening and verifying and validating the overall solution, it's a great way of communicating the benefits of a specific solution to their stakeholders. And the last thing, which is goes back to the second category of use cases, reinforcement learning, that is not the main topic of this talk, is when you train a policy with an RL training setup and then you wanted to test it. So the first line of test would be just put it back into the original simulation and see how it performs there and how it can control the original simulation or the training environment. So that's kind of a obvious way of starting the test and seeing how the trained policy actually performing. But that's another thing. So these were the reasons behind why you want to embed a trained ML model into a simulation model. Let's say one of these things is what you want to do. How you can actually implement it is the next topic. So I'm going to talk about 4 options, and the 4th one is actually new. The first one is, and it's very common now that all types of solutions are deployed as APIs, and this is the same kind of application, that the trained ML model is accessible as an API. It could be on a cloud service or on any locally maintained kind of backend that exposes the trained ML model as an API, and you can embed it into your AnyLogic model, because AnyLogic is at the end is a Java application that can consume any API in the model. So this is a generic idea. The next 3 options are more specific. So the second option that you have, we collaborated with H2O.ai. This is a specific company, and they have this platform called driverless AI that lets you to a great extent automate the process of training ML models and mostly supervised models. And then we documented the workflow of how you can embed those models inside AnyLogic. So if you're interested, if you search for it, you will find a webinar that we did together, and there are examples models, and in our AnyLogic.ai webpage, you will find all the resources you need to learn how this workflow works. The third option, which we presented last year or this year, beginning of this year, as a kind of webinar, and also has been available for a while, is Alpine library, pipeline library, which is a connector between AnyLogic and Python, and so it's bigger than just ML, so you can use it for all types of connectivity with Python in case you have your own custom algorithms or you're interested in using any Python packages, benefits of all of those, like the vast number of Python packages are available to you. One application that is also very interesting is if you have any trained model in the Python context, you can get inferences from that or predictions from those models through this library. And if you're interested, this is available in this GitHub on like the git.io al_pi. And there you will find everything you need to know about this, including example models. Actually, some of these example models are also inside AnyLogic example repository, and there are really comprehensive instructions and walkthroughs and even that this is an open source library, you can actually see the code. But from the beginning, when we were started looking into this use case 3 years ago, we looked into some ways to natively get predictions from trained models. And at that point, we looked into this kind of library called Onyx that I will talk about a little bit more. And at that time, we were collaborating with SkyMind, which eventually changed into PathMind, and they were maintaining this Java library called DL4J. And we looked into it, and the Onyx at the same time, it was not ready for, like, it wasn't that easy to use. And we decided just to not go with that right away. And like a year ago, we revisited this and we realized that it's completely mature. It has lots of easy to use workflows now. And Tyler started working on this, and it was a smaller project, but Tyler at that point was mostly focused on Alpine, which is the other Python library that lets you to do reinforcement learning. So we decided just to put it aside. Let's release Alpine, which happened on AnyLogic conference, and now we are happy to kind of introduce a new library, or kind of a wrapper version of Onyx that is going to be available for you in case you have trained models in any of the kind of common frameworks, and this wrapper will make things much easier. So what I'm going to do is to give you a small demo of how this thing looks like, and that's kind of the last topic that I wanted to cover before I kind of make a couple of announcements. Okay, so let's take a look into this. So just for you to know, if you are new to this topic, Onyx is this open neural network exchange platform, or like library, and the idea behind it is people are working in different AI frameworks, and they might need to move their models between these frameworks. And they like all these big tech companies and everybody who were involved, they came together and developed this thing and kind of accepted this standard way of collaborating or sharing models between the frameworks. And if you look into, so if you're interested, you can go to onyx.ai or onnx.ai, and I just wanted to show you that it supports export from almost all the popular frameworks, including Keras, PyTorch, TensorFlow, and yeah, so basically it covers it, and even like more conventional ML models like what you get in scikit-learn. So you have all of these things, you can export them, and right now if you wanted to try it, you can do it on your own, so you don't need to wait for our kind of helper library or the wrapper that we are going to release pretty soon. So this is just, you can go through the installation process. There is a way to download the proper version of what you need. And then you need to go through the process of adding the jar files to AnyLogic and write a little bit of code to make the inferences or predictions from your trained model. But what we are working on and will be released soon is this Onyx wrapper, or we might give it change the name a little bit later, but that's what we right now have, and it's available, so it's kind of ready, and it will be released soon. And the way it works is it is like any other library that you can add to AnyLogic. And behind the scene, this is a wrapper. So you basically, by adding this library, you are adding the jar files needed for this library to work, plus some external extra helper code that we wrote for it so that you can make use of it faster. So just to show you, demonstrate that the way it works, you add this library to AnyLogic, you add this object to your model, and if you look into like its properties, you will see that you can easily browse and find the Onyx file, which is the exported version of your trained ML model on your hard drive. And by default, this Onyx lets you to get access to the trained model as a map. So Tyler is working on several methods to make it easier, but the one that I'm going to demonstrate here is directly as a list. So you basically get the result as a list of numbers, and then you can use those predictions. And just to show you how the code may look like eventually is something like this. And we set the default model, just generate some, let's say, order or demand for this product in the supply chain example. Here, the workflow with Onyx will look like this. So this line is where you connect, we connected to the trained ML model through this Onyx wrapper, and the result is kind of like an array of numbers. And then inside that, you know which index or which element is going to be what you're looking for. In this case, the first index is going to be the time that specific order will come in, and then the second would be the size, for example. But that depends on the context of the model that you train. And then you can run the model natively with that trained model. Everything is happening in Java at this point. You are not talking to any external framework. So I'm not going to run this one because it just kind of doesn't show anything different, but I have a fun example to show that Tyler built that I like. So probably if you've seen this MNIST kind of example, is kind of like a hello world of this type of prediction, and you can actually show the kind of as input, you have a drawing that represents specific number or digit, and then it tries to give you categorize it and try to predict what is the number. So I'm going to draw something, and this will just be embedded into an AnyLogic model. You can see that this is how you get predictions. So I'm just drawing, for example, number 5. As you can see, already it kind of gets that it's going to be 5. So the percentage-wise, and actually give you percentages of the probability of this to be 5. This is so obvious that it's like almost 100% is going to be 5. So, and just imagine that this could be any trained ML model, and you pass some input. In this case, I pass this matrix of numbers, and it's giving me the result, the prediction back. This is a simple case, but it tells me like it's going to be number 5 based on the categorical inference that it did. Okay, so one last thing before we get to the questions and answers. We all know that unfortunately Pathmind is no longer available. The Pathmind was a service, automated reinforcement learning service that was working with us for the last 3 years. And I want to thank them all, the team in Pathmind. They were, and when we started, they actually were SkyMind. So with brilliant engineers, really helpful team, both the management and the developers. I want to thank them all, and I know that it was very unfortunate that this happened, but at the same time, I'm sure like they are going to do even better stuff into the future. So if you have worked or if you have started something with Pathmind and now you're thinking about how to migrate to a different workflow, at the moment I have 2 suggestions for you. We have this library Alpine that we released a couple of months ago during the AnyLogic conference, and this lets you to do the training kind of locally on your machine in Python environment. If you're interested, we have everything that you need to get started with in this GitHub repo, and also Tyler presented the workflow of this in our conference. So if you go and find that presentation, you see a demonstration of this. And definitely next year we'll do a more thorough webinar to walk you through the process once again and with all the latest updates. So this is something that we're still working on, and it gets updates. So that's Alpine if you're interested to do things locally with Python. And as you probably know, we are also collaborating with Microsoft in Microsoft Project Bonsai, and that automated reinforcement learning workflow is also available to you. They are supporting a specific way of building reinforcement learning models that is called machine teaching, which lets you to be more focused on what you really want to get out of that training rather than the implementation. And it's a very interesting way. And as you know, it's on Azure, so it's very scalable. And if you're interested, again, if you go to AnyLogic.ai, which is or if you go to AnyLogic, you can find it under the AI section, or if you go to AnyLogic.ai, you get access to all of these things in one place. So with that, thank you so much for your attention, and let me see if there is any question here. So first of all, I think just a generic answer to all the questions about this webinar. I'm sure that the recorded version of this will be available to you and all the presentations. So if you're interested to look back into what we showed today, definitely all of them will be available. And one quick thing about the timing of this Onyx wrapper release, it's definitely going to be Q1 of next year, hopefully even the early part of Q1, maybe January. That's our goal, because everything is ready. It's just a matter of just tying the loose ends. Okay, so okay, yeah, and by the way, if so there's a question about where I could have access for it. Are you going to send emails? Yes, absolutely. If whenever we release it, we publicize it in our website and probably in the newsletter, and we will do a short webinar for that, so you know how to get access to it. So it's going to be public. Okay, question about, can you please provide additional, so the problem that I have with this is just as you ask more questions, it moves. Can you please provide additional example for how Bonsai can be integrated with AnyLogic? Absolutely. So one thing that we spent a lot of time on last year was a really comprehensive documentation of how the workflow between Bonsai and AnyLogic works. And what we did is we wrote this really long documentation for that, but because everything was evolving very fast, there were lots of changes happening at the same time in parallel with our documentation. So we kind of couldn't catch up with the changes, and it was getting out of date as we were writing the documentation. But that is at a stable phase, and both Tyler and I work on it. We have great examples. Tyler added a really good example there. So hopefully that will be released very, very soon. That's very kind of self-contained. So anybody can start with that and just go through the example, learn how the Bonsai work with AnyLogic, and it has a very thorough technical references. Actually, we wrote it as a reference guide for everybody who's interested into the actual deeper topics. Okay, what should be the starting point on simulation and AI? That's a great question. I would say, so if you remember, I showed 3 different applications. Generating synthetic data. The talk today was about embedding ML models inside simulation models and then reinforcement learning. I would start with generating synthetic data. Just use the output of your simulation as inputs into an ML model, just to test the water and see how you can build a meta model of your simulation. That's a good starting point to get a feeling of these two can be connected. Then move to embedding ML models into AnyLogic. And you can start with any model. So it doesn't need to, so the ML model that you start with, just as I just showed you with that MNIST data set, it doesn't necessarily need to have any connection to simulation. It can just bring in any generic ML model like Iris data set. Just find something that is available to you and you're comfortable with in the ML side. Make sure that you learn how to bring it into the simulation. And then if you learn that workflow, the rest is just replicating this for any real project. So you have an ML model, you have a simulation that at some point needs some inferences or prediction about something, and now you know how to find or train an ML model and bring it in to do that prediction for you. So that would be for the second use case, the testbed or embedded models. And the third would be reinforcement learning. The best starting point, in my opinion, is Alpine, specifically if you wanted to do everything on your own machine. And then if you're thinking about more practical application, industrial level training, then think about Bonsai, and hopefully the documentation will be out there for you to follow on that. Are there any model examples with usage of Alpine to train and user policy? Yes, absolutely. In the GitHub repo that I just showed, you have access to example models, very thorough instruction of how you can make the connection between your exported model and this library and how to download the library and make the connection. Yeah, everything is, we have examples for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We can definitely help you with your questions. Yeah, I think I've covered everything that is there. And if there's anything that I've missed, I promise to look back and write you a written answer sometime into the future. So thank you so much for your attention. So I will give back the webinar to Daria.
Okay. So thank you everyone for such a great session. I hope you had a great experience here. And I would like to wish everyone the Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And so this was the last event from this year. And see you next year with us. Stay with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice New Year and Christmas.